Hello. Hello. Right. Can you hear me, everybody that's here? If you can just say, do a 1 in the chat, just so I can see that you're able to hear me and see me, and that you can that we can communicate. Anyone do that? No. Oh, does that mean you can't hear me? Sorry. Sorry, I'm an amateur. I had the comments at the bottom, so I was reading people from when they'd seen me the first. Anyway, sorry. Forget my amateurness. Anybody that watches me normally, now you've got the opportunity to see the back of my room rather than the front of my room that you normally see. So if you came from to this session from my YouTube, then you know normally I've got it all lit up behind and stuff, but that's the back. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. I'll wait until a few more people have got on first before I bang into my nonsense. Nice plant. Thanks very much. You can't not have a studio plant. It's standard, isn't it? Every studio needs one. It's not a real one without one. Okay, hi Lionel, Max, George, Jack, Gary, David, Mark, John, Claudio, Gavin. Is that vodka or gin? I wish. I'm not drinking at the moment still, so neither. It's water. Hi Alexander, Renee, John, Joey, say hello everybody if you can. It's nice to say hello. Okay, I'll just wait another minute and see if. So no, they're Ava room correction, like base bins, active traps. There you go, Mark. Thanks. Yeah, that's exactly what they are. Hello, Costa Rica. I can change all of the colors in my room, yes. They are traps, yeah, base traps. Okay, I'm not going to get into questions now because we'll be here all day. So let's get cracking. I'm going to do a Q&A at the end, which was why I wanted to limit this to 100 people. So we can I'll answer as many questions as you like at the end, more than happy to. But I really sort of want to get to the sort of nuts and bolts of why, to show you exactly how to master in 3 steps, which is quite exciting for me and hopefully for you too. So anybody that's here that doesn't know me, I'm Streaky. I'm a mastering engineer. I've been mastering for 25 years. This is my normal patter. And I've worked with people like Ed Sheeran, Adele, Paul Weller, Kasabian, Groove Armada, Basement Jaxx, Naughty Boy, Jonas Blue, loads and loads of different people. I work daily as a mastering engineer. I work with major artists and a lot of independents, a lot more independents these days, because a lot of people are in their studios and a lot of people aren't going down the route of using major labels anymore. So they work with me. I have worked with Left Field, yes, someone asked, long time ago. And so I started off in '96 mastering for a place called Battery Studios, which was great because all I wanted to do was work in a studio. I was desperate to work in a studio. And I'd done some really sort of office jobs and things. And I was in my early 20s and I thought I was going to kill myself if I didn't get a job doing something in the studio. So I didn't know about CD mastering. So I didn't really know what it was when I got into it. So I had to kind of learn my steps as I went. So, which was quite a good grounding for me, really, because what it meant was that I was like a sponge with loads of people, just seeing what they were doing and grabbing their techniques and really trying to understand what mastering was, and just kind of finding shortcuts, which is something I think we all want, is the quick result. Because I had clients coming in, I had to get them a result quickly, and I didn't really know what I was doing with equipment, so I had to learn very fast and learn on the job. So that's really the way I've kind of treated it ever since. I've always been that way. I've always just gone around the studio at night when the other mastering engineers aren't there, and looked at what they're doing and looked at their notes and decided to steal this and that. And then I went from Battery. I was there. First track I mastered actually was quite mental, which was Return of the Mac, where it was this kind of gangstery geezer from London, and that's quite a big tune. That's kind of ended up carrying on. So that was a great first lucky track to master, should I say. And then I went on to do Groove Armada at Battery, and I did some stuff for a band called Kenobi. I don't know if you remember them. And I got my hands on loads of things that were like, it was part of Zomba, and Zomba was Jive Records. So they had a lot of hip hop artists so I'd get to use their tracks as like testers, and I'd get to work on some remixes and things like that. So it was a great starting point for me. So I kind of lucked out a bit in that respect. And then that was about to kind of close down because Zomba was being sold. And as luck would have it again, I got in with a place called Soundmasters, which was a guy called Kevin Metcalf, who had done everybody from David Bowie to Queen. He was like top mastering guy at the time. And I wanted to learn how to cut vinyl. So I went there and I learned how to cut vinyl with him. And while I was there, I worked on things like Kasabian. I did tons and tons of drum and bass cutting for Ed Rush Optical, Adam F, all these kind of guys in the sort of, early 2000s, Brian G, loads and loads of different people doing that stuff. So that was a really good grounding, and learning from him was great. So I kind of got all that information, which was brilliant. I did work with Hype. Yeah, I worked with all those guys at the time. It was brilliant. They'd all come in at night. I'd be cutting some vinyl, and they'd all want one because they were all playing dub plates at the time. So it was just great fun to do that, because I didn't have kids, so I didn't mind staying all night and cutting with them. And I didn't really feel like I was part of their gang, really, because they were all kind of, a bit cooler than me, I guess. But I was there just cutting the vinyl and making it sound good, and they were trusting me. So that's what I was enjoying, really. And then from Soundmasters, I went to do my own thing, which again was a real eye-opener. So I left there. I didn't have anywhere to go. I had a bit of a falling out with the guy I was doing a business called eMasters with, which was like the first online mastering platform. We had a bit of a kind of, didn't see eye to eye on certain stuff. So I left there, and then I started up on my own. So maybe like similar to a lot of you guys, where I had to set up a room from scratch. I built it at my house. I had and I still got a massive sort of double garage. So I built big walls inside, went totally over the top, really looked into it, really got into acoustics, really got into the things. Because as an engineer, when you're working in the studio, you don't get into that kind of thing. You tend to leave that to the guys that come in, the guy in the maintenance room and stuff, and you don't sort of know that sort of thing. So learning that was brilliant. So having that couple of years of working from home, building my own room, that's where I started the YouTube channel as well. From there, purely out of boredom of sitting on my own a lot of the times, and having no one to talk to. So then because no one could attend because it was at my house. So I had big B&W speakers, had all the gear that I needed, and it was great because it was a great learning curve for me to learn about acoustics, learn about how things should sound in small rooms, how to get good sound in a small room. So that was all really good learning for me, because I'd been spoiled before that with sort of really nice rooms and massive speakers and all this kind of thing. And then from there, I went to Metropolis Mastering, which is, if you don't know, in London, it's sort of the biggest and the best mastering place in London, really. Well, it has all the main mastering guys there. So going there was great. Taking my clients there and being there with Stuart Hawkes, who's a big mastering engineer, and John Davis, who's a big mastering engineer. They're all there. Ian Cooper was there. All these guys have literally done every song you've heard for the past 20 years. So going there, checking out their notes, doing their, just looking at what they were doing and finding out their sort of thing, and then taking my knowledge of the acoustics and stuff and moving the room around and talking to the techs. And I was back to having a tech guy where he could come up and fix things, and that was quite weird, but it was great, and it was and so I lasted there for about 5 years, and I couldn't really get the sound that I wanted, and I couldn't really get the equipment sounding. I wasn't able to change anything, and because I'd had that time on my own where I could pull equipment out and really get into it, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, is something that's really fun and a good learning experience. So by being able to do that, not being able to do that, should I say, at Metropolis I felt was holding me back. So that brought me to here, which is at Pinewood Studios, which is a massive film studios just outside of London. And it's not too far from where I live, which is handy. But they had a really cool space for me to build a new room. And then I've got an office next door, which is perfect for doing other stuff. But the main thing is it's in the film industry. So it's a totally different place to the music industry. It's very vibey. They film James Bond here and Star Wars and all those kind of things. So it's quite good at lunchtime to sort of hang out with all those kind of people, and a bit different to the music industry. But it's been great because I've been able to build this room. I've been able to take all the knowledge that I've had over this period of time and put it into this room, put it into my YouTube channel, and share as much information as I can about this stuff, everything that I've learned and things I've picked up over that 25 years, and sort of give it back to people and help people gain the knowledge that I've got, because I know what it's like when you go to a room and you haven't had the experience and the people around you that I've been fortunate enough to have. And so, I know that you can only find the information out on YouTube or by listening to other people and just getting those tidbits of information. So by creating a channel and kind of funneling all the different information that I have and thoughts and stuff I'm talking to people about every day in the industry, it's just really great to get feedback and give people help and ideas. So that's why we're here today. That's my history, a little bit about me. Sorry, I got to drink something now after that. So I wanted to, I've basically, over the years, I've been looking at how I master and working. I know kind of how I can get something sounding great. So the reason how I've been able to come up with this 3-step process is because recently I've been looking into how, like, reverse engineering what I do quite heavily for the course that I've been running, but also for doing the channel and talking more about what I do. You kind of end up looking at what you do and why. And so then I worked out this kind of process. Everything kind of has a formula, doesn't it? And I was looking at how I work and then trying to work that out so that I could explain to people how I work. And then I thought, okay, well, this is actually, when I boil it down and distill it, I could actually do this in 3 parts, which is what I'm going to show you today. And I think you're going to love it. I went through it with I told my assistant about it, and he was like, this just rubbish. There's no way you can do that. And so then I thought, okay, fine, I'll show you. So I did it to him and he was like, thought it was great. So, so here we are. Let's dive in, and I will, and I'll help you. Now this training is, I'm in the box for the training so that I can actually show you. If you have got, if you do use hybrid equipment or you're out of the box, then you can still apply this, because all you'll do is on the section where I've got plugins, you would go out and back into the box, out and back into your DAW. So So basically, that's the kind of benefit of it there. So let me switch into a screen so I can just sorry, just work this out. Turn screen share on. Oh, where's that gone? Okay, sorry, bear with. Cancel. All right, let's just, sorry, I'm just trying to get the thing out. I'll keep talking whilst I do it. It's like, okay, right. So let me see if I can just share this screen. Here we go. So, okay, so I'm sharing that. Let me just pull this down. So can you all see that? Is that good? Can you see the Pro Tools and me in the corner? You've got a blank screen, Nathan. Is it on? Oh, God. Yeah. You can see. Okay, cool. All right. So let me get cracking then. Looks good. Thanks, guys, for the feedback. Gavin, yeah. Okay. It's only Gavin probably that can see it. No, Jason can see everyone. And Colin, yeah. Okay, right. Here we go. So what I've got essentially here is I've set up a Pro Tools session. Now, this doesn't have to be in Pro Tools. This can be in, if you've got any questions, by the way, we'll do a Q&A afterwards. So so hold fire on that at the moment. But this can be done in any DAW, really. It's a very simple setup that I'm using. So what I've got here, let me just run you through the basics. There is a pre-master channel, there is a plugins channel, and there is a mastered track channel. It's pretty simple. So what we're doing is we're coming out of the pre-master channel on bus 1 and 2. So that gets me into the plugins channel on bus 1 and 2. And then on bus 3 and 4, I go out. And then for the mastered channel, I go in on 3 and 4. And then this goes out to my output so that I can hear what I'm doing. So I'll run through that again quickly, just in case you didn't get it. We've got 3 channels, before, middle and after, if you like. And the middle bit has all your settings on. And the before is you're going out of a bus, 1 and 2. And then you're coming back in for the middle bit on 1 and 2, obviously, because it's going straight in. And then you're going out of 3 and 4. Then on the record channel, which is the master channel, you are coming in on 3 and 4, and you are going out so to wherever you can hear, which for me is output 1 and 2 on my Hilo. So I've got a few plugins that I think are really helpful for this. Now, the first plugin, it's just a meter. It's the meter that I use. If you see this, now this is the Klangheim VU MT. I think it costs about €4, so it's not going to break the bank by getting it. But it's the meter that is basically the only meter I use, and I use it in RMS mode, so that I can see what's happening. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what's that in LUFS? Well, RMS and LUFS are roughly the same. So don't worry about that it's RMS or LUFS. That's not important at this stage of the game. What is important is that you've got a meter that is going to show you what your RMS value is, or your LUFS value, whichever one you prefer. So I have that on the pre-master. Now, I also have that at the end of my chain, another version of it, and I have it in a different color, so you can see. Let's just bring that up. So the black one is is on the first channel, my pre-master, and then this bluey, nice kind of slaty bluey color is on my output. so that I can see exactly what's happening before and after the middle chain. Now, let me explain something before we go any further of how I work and how you should work. And this is a very key feature of mastering that a lot of people don't get, because the reason why people can't get things loud is because they work in a way that when you record, produce and mix, you're always working from the front, and then you're adding as you go. Where for me, I'm working with the end in mind. So I'm starting at the end and then I'm working backwards. Now, that's why when you're a mix engineer, it's very difficult to think to yourself, okay, I'll add some EQ now, and then I'll add some limiting and stuff, and that will get me to being as loud as I need to be. But that's not the case. The fact is, you need to get to as loud as you want to be and then work your way back. So this will all become apparent as I go through this, but just keep that in mind. And this is why you should always master in a separate session to, if you're a mix guy and this is why you're doing it, then you should have separate sessions for mixing and for mastering. The main reason is for this reason, that you can have a template set up and you can work from the end backwards, rather than what happens is if you're working forwards, you're very tempted then to then change the mix and change things that are going on by working forwards, because you think to yourself, okay, well, that's how it works. You keep adding and adding until you get to the point where you can't add any more because it's too crushed. Well, this is a fundamental difference that you need to realize, is that we're working backwards. So so I've got this track that I've pulled in earlier on. I'll answer questions to all this later if you've got any questions at all, and we can deep dive into it a bit more later. But let's get going. I've got this track in here, which is Matt, my assistant's track, always for copyright reasons. And so the track's going to play. It's obviously playing through here. It's then going to go through these plugins. If we just turn these off for the moment. And so if I get this playing, what I'll do, I'll probably just, you're not going to be able to hear this playing, because that's really not the point of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this, right? And then I'm going to send you it as well as a replay, so you can check it out and have it so you can work with it. But it's not really for me to master now in front of you and say to you, which I am obviously going to master in front of you, but it's not that you're going to hear the differences and we're going to get into all of that. This is to show you the process. This is to show you the system that you need to do, okay, to get from nothing to a final finished sounding track. And you'll see how that works as it pans out. So so I do have, I'll let it play in the background. I need to move my screen so I can see if anyone's saying anything. Cannot see the plugins page. Comments, I guess his comments hidden. They're on another screen. Can you see this? Sorry, let me just, can you see this plugin? No one sees the plugins. Oh, that's handy. Okay, let me just share the screen differently then. Sorry. Let's turn that off. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'm going to just work out how to share the screen so I can fully share the screen. Yes, I'll share the desktop. So share entire screen. Share your entire screen. Won't let me press share. Oh, good. That's handy. Uh, is it still sharing the screen? It's letting me do application window. Oh, there we go. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Oh, geez. Okay, hold tight. Can you see this now? Everyone can see this, yeah? Nope. Oh, really? Can you see this now? Yes, you can see, yeah? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, great stuff. And you can see plugins, yeah? Say yes, plugins. Okay, sorry, it's first time and all that. So, okay, I'm going to stop looking at your chat now and carry on. So, so what can you see? You can see this, yeah? Okay. Yes, plugins, yes. Don't worry, cheers. Okay, fine. Okay, let's crack on then. So let's get rid of this one, which is, so you've got this black one. Let me go and explain this again. So we've got this black Klangheim VU meter, which is on RMS. And then I have this bluer one, which is the output one, just so you know. So what I want to do, first of all, is I've got to check that the level coming into the system is correct. So what I'll do is I'll go to the loudest point here. So let's check that out and see how loud that is. Okay. And so what I want to do is I can see that that's kind of stable there. So let me just turn that off in case there's any feedback. Now what I want to do with this is you want to get this so that it's going to about -16. So you can see it's bouncing there. I did this earlier, obviously. So if it was massive, then you can see it's overloading, it's going there. So I want to pull this level down so that I'm getting this meter. This is my kind of input to the desk meter. Let's just go back there to -16. So there we have it. We're kind of there, roughly. So you want it just bouncing around this -16 area here. So now we're set up to go into the plugins section. So we've got the plugins turned off. So let's just turn these on. We've got the FabFilter Q3 as an EQ. You're only going to need, I keep saying this if you watch my videos, you only need an EQ, a compressor, and a limiter. Anything else is gravy, basically. So just use these three. You don't have to use these exact three, but these three is what I'm going to show you, and I'm going to give you some of the information on these, so they're handy. But really, as long as you've got FabFilter plugins, should do the job for you most of the time. So let's just put these in so that we've got some level going through them. So now what we want to do, working from the end backwards, as I was saying, let's go here and get the this is the mastered one, as we can see. So this is my output level. Now, with the output level, I want that to be hitting around -8 RMS. Now, anything over -8 RMS is a little bit crazy. You can get electronic music going a lot over, so you can get it around -6, -4, which is around this area here. But really, I want it bouncing. Let me just check that you can all see again. Can you... yes, we see the whole desktop. Okay, these three are the best. Well, they are quite good. Okay, so question was, I'm not answering questions. I'm trying not to answer questions, but any reason you're going to 16? Well, there isn't a reason. I just know that reason is the right reason. Okay, so through my going through the desk, distilling my information, I know that if you hit -16 on the way into either your desk or anything that you're processing with, -16 on the way out of this channel is perfect. Okay, so trust me. So then now on the output, like I say, we want to be getting that to about -8. So let's just play the track, hitting -16 on the way out into the equipment. So into the equipment in this case is in the box. and it's going through the Q3. So what we want to do in this case is lift the level on here on the Pro L, and the Pro L can handle quite a lot of level. So you can push through the Pro L. Now, I tend to use sometimes a couple of limiters here, just for getting different flavors and sounds and things. But for today's lesson, to make things nice and easy and quick, we can just use the Pro L because I know that it will sound great anyway. And if I showed you this master track at the end, you'd be more than happy with it. So, so we know we've got it there with it plus 8.5. And it's hitting around -8. So it's going to pop over there. So we bring that down. So now we are going, this is the level that you are going to want your track to be at. And it's the level that I master to for all commercial records that I do. I basically master to this for everything. If somebody wants it quieter, then I can give it to them quieter. But mainly most people want it at this level. Now, I know there's loads of questions around loudness, and we'll get into that later. But for the moment, we're getting it around there. So we know that's working fine. So we know now we are in the ballpark. We are hitting -8 RMS, which is a finished track. Now, something that I haven't mentioned until now is I've used this plugin on the output, and it's a plugin called Adapter. It's a AB plugin, and it's very handy just for, so you can bring the track in and you can play the track at the same time, and you can AB between the two. You can also then level match the before track. So if I was to pull a track in, you can load the track in like this, and then you can sync it up. I won't go into that here because there's no need, but I have done a video on this on my channel, so you can check it out there. But you can AB between the two. Now, this is super important because we want to be able to hear this track at the same time as listening to the processing that we're doing, and be able to flick between the two so that we can hear exactly what processing we're doing. So you need to have some kind of AB scenario. So really, you want a plugin that does it. This is my favorite. This is my go-to. Sometimes it's on discount for like $39, and most of the time it's for $200, but you can get it a lot of the time on a discount. You can get it for like 2 weeks free anyway. So get this, or there's one called Reference, I think, as well. There's a few others. But you need something to be able to AB and to be able to sync, so that at the same time as you're playing, you can listen to the before and after. Because gain staging things through and just adding a bit of level, say for example on this Fairchild compressor, say I'm adding some input gain, that's suddenly going to make that compressor sound really good, where really you don't know if it's sounding any better or not, or whether it's actually made the track sound worse because it's compressing too much. You need to be able to AB between the two things, so you can totally get, okay, I know it sounds right. Okay, so you need that plugin to, or some kind of AB scenario, whether you feed it out to a desk or however you listen. You need to be able to hear this exactly how it's presented to you, and then this afterwards. I think I've kind of hit that home. It's on discount at the moment. I think you're right, it is. So perfect timing. So going on to this, so now that we know we've got our levels correct, you need to keep this level meter open all the time somewhere, so that you can watch this as you're playing with your as you're tuning the track. So we now know the level's okay. So what we're going to do, we press play, and we'll go in and we will start manipulating the EQ to however we want to manipulate that. And and then we've got a compressor and we've got a limiter. Now, what I'll do, I'll firstly explain the compressor because that's quite easy. I use compression mainly just for flavor. If you can see on a compressor any of these VUs moving, you know you're doing too much compression in mastering. Now, this EQ is great. This compressor is great, sorry, because it's adding loads of like analog warmth and stuff, which is nice. And I'm not actually doing anything to it. I'm just running through it. I'm not adding any gain. I haven't got the threshold up too far, so it's not pumping, it's not touching the track. I'm actually side chaining it on here as well, so that I'm not using the compressor on the low end, because that's going to take away a lot of headroom, and it's not going to allow this. This is going to start making this compressor suck a little bit. And also on this, I'm not adding any delay on it, at any release time, because the release time is going to add more color and it's going to slow down the sound. So really, with compressors, this is what you want to do. This is your basic setting. This is your basic settings on what you want to do on every single compressor you use. So keep it so that you've got no gain, you've got no threshold, you've got, if it's got an attack time, keep that slow and keep your release time fast, and don't compress the low end. That's your basic setup. That will get you through. That will get you using any type of compressor to just get the sound and the style of that compressor, which is all you want to do really with compression. It's about flavoring the track up. So really, you can either use that or not. Now, moving on, we saw me use the Pro L. I'll get into a little bit more detail on this in a moment. So we've got +8 running on that at that point. Now, let me get into this EQ. Now, I've got some settings that I've set up on this EQ. I'm going to, after this session, send you this preset so that it's basically Streaky's 3-step setup, so that you can pretty much use these EQ settings. These are all the EQ settings that basically, there's this guy who I used to work with who's a big engineer. He used these settings on nearly every single track, and it was embarrassing to the point for me, because I'd just look at them and think, not again. But I used them, not all these settings, I've manipulated them into my own style over the years, but they will get you out of jail 80% of the time, a lot of the time. So this is gold dust for you guys. I will send you this preset afterwards, but let me just quickly go through how I work with this, and how you can use these different settings for the different scenarios that you'll come up in. So first of all, keep this on all the time. Low cut, 20 hertz. Now I'm using it with that. You want it kind of quite sharp, because you don't want to start taking off from any higher than, say, this point here, 25. So in fact, let me just, before I really go into one about this, obviously nothing's set in stone with this template. You can move these around wherever you want. This is just a starting point. This is, okay, I've got a track up, I'm hitting it at -16. I can go through these settings and I can get it to -8. Right, now what does it need? I'm listening. Okay, to me, it sounds like it needs this, that, and the other. And these are the reasons why. So this is a low cut. Leave that on, because there could be waffle and stuff going on in the bottom, and it's going to make your track sound tighter. So keep that in. I tend to do that on most tracks. There's always something going on down there that you don't want. Next thing up, track needs a little bit of sub. Now, very tight Q on this at around 50 hertz. You can see I'm doing 1 dB here. You're always doing very light settings with mastering. Any more settings than this and you're over EQing and you're doing too much. So really you want to be at +1, you don't want to be getting up to 2s and 3s. Obviously if it needs it, then you need to use it. Can anyone see? Because everyone's seeing still, all good. Zach, you remember Shay showing me these settings, right? Okay, yeah, I know Shay stole some of them from me, but little does Shay know that I've changed them a bit since then. So, okay, so this is a 50 hertz setting there. And then that's if you want to get a little bit more bass going in. Now, that will give you some really nice punch to the low subs. Now, if you've got too much going on there, then don't use it, but it's handy for that. Okay, the track sounds muddy. What do I do with the muddy track? I add this one here. So this is about 160 hertz, and it's quite a tight cue, but you need to add this, start at around half and then bring it down to 1. Any more than 1, you're going to rip too much of the life out of it. And stay quite tight, but move it out and just use your ears and work out how I can get some muddiness away from it. So that will get you out of jail with muddy tracks. Now, when I'm using this setting, if I'm taking something out here, it's really important, the low mids, what's going on, because that's where a lot of energy is in the track and where a track sounds quite thick and you want to get some weight in there. So you want to kind of counteract that with this around about 250, something like that. So you're getting a dip there, but you're also counteracting it so that you're not taking too much out of the snares and stuff. And you can move this up, but it's going to start sounding a bit woolly and boxy. So you're going to be counteracting. You can see as I move that up that I'm losing what I was doing there, really. So I want to kind of, you've got to watch that and use your ears for the Q factor on it, so you can see how that goes. But I would suggest if you're using this, then use this. Sometimes you might not need to use this if you're only taking a small bit out of there. But again, use your ears and work that out for yourself. So then if I want the vocals to pop out, if I want the snares to hit more, snares are super important in any track. They're going to keep the track going. They're going to keep it snapping all the way through. So you really want to keep that in mind. Always be A-Bing between before and after to make sure that you're not losing snares, because what can happen is if you're pulling the limiter up, with the limiter in, you're going to be losing a little bit of snap sometimes with the limiter hitting that. So you can emphasize that a bit more so that when it is going into the limiter, it's emphasizing it and it's going to sort it out for you. So this 2.5K to sort of 3 is really going to open up that kind of mid area. The top mids, it can start getting a bit harsh, so you've got to watch that with your ears and just smooth it out a bit more if it's getting a little bit hard, or don't use it at all. But yeah, sometimes around the vocals it can get a bit spitty and essy, but a lot of the times it works, and 2.5K just really gets those snares opened up and good for guitars and things like that. So I would use that as well. And then this here is a shelf. So we want to open the track up. A lot of the times, most tracks need a little bit of high end. Now, not using high end is sometimes can make it sound a little bit posher, but you need to work out whether it's dull or whether it's bright. So again, going back to the AB plugin, you need to be able to work before and after and really hear what's going on so that you can work out, is it bright? Is it too bright? Is it not? And the great thing about this AB plugin is you can bring some other reference tracks in here. So if you're a mastering engineer and a client's giving you a track in here you can listen to, or if you're referencing from other commercial material, you can bang those in here and you can see what level they're at, and you can A/B against them against your track. That way you're going to be able to hear exactly, okay, I need more tops. It's not sounding bright enough, or it's too bright. So what I'm going to do is I'll just whip a little bit of top out, and so you'll do a little bit of reverse of this. Now, don't take away too much of the tops, because that can sound quite harsh and brittle, and I'd probably go higher if I was taking away from the tops, but I tend not to take away. I add more than I take away. This is probably the most taking away in this that I'll ever do, but you need to, obviously that's not true. Occasionally I'll do other things, but mainly I'm more of a giver than a taker. I think you can get that. So I like to add more and then manipulate that more rather than take away. I think when you're taking away, you're taking away from the essence of the track. So it's always good to add and then shape that later. For me, that's always worked. I like that sound. I like to then add some more flavor. But again, going back to the A/Bing, and if you are adding loads of other plugins into this because you think you need them, the A/B situation is really going to help you, because it's going to make you realize that you don't need as many things as you think you need to get it sounding finished. These things here are literally going to show you when you pull them up after this session. You're going to see what I'm saying. You're going to get the presets, and you're going to see, okay, I can see what he's saying now, that I've got it up to the level. I don't actually need to add that, because the level will fool you all the time. You'll always think that you need to get some more level in there, but you don't need to get level in there. A lot of the time it's just a minor EQ change and then making sure your limiter's doing the level for you. Now let's move on to the limiter. So I'll start with an EQ, then I can flavor it up. I can always add another EQ afterwards if this compression isn't right, or if it's compressing a bit too more than I want, or if it's compressing enough, you know, if it's an SSL compressor, it sounds really gluey, but it's just taking a bit from the top, then I might add another EQ afterwards just to bring that top in, but I'll listen to the A and B and work that out to make sure that's right. So moving on to the L2, how I use this. Now, the best way to use this is with the highest setting on the oversampling you can get with whatever CPU you're using. 6 times 16 just sounds so much cleaner. So use that as high as you can. Now you need to leave a little bit of room at the top. So make sure your output is on minus 0.1. That will give you enough headroom so that you're not getting oversampling going on. True peak limiting. Now, my settings for this. Now, what you want to do, keep it in default there. All these settings are just excellent starting points, basically. So this will all round on here, and release time straight down, put the attack up, and then move the look ahead a little bit, but not too much. Now, these settings here that I've just shown you will get you out of jail most of the time. Now, copy this into the AB and then move around. So I like the dynamic. So I'll listen to these different settings. You can do this, obviously, but you want to change these as you go. So that's why I do the AB, but you can just flick through them. I like punchy, dynamic, and all round. I don't like any of the others. So personal choice, but that's the ones I use. And you've got the gain going, and this is going to go at the same level. Now, whilst you're adding EQ and maybe you're adding some compression or whatever else you want to add there, I mean, this is going to get you out of jail, as I keep saying most of the time. I'm adding, as I say, I'm always adding. So this is going to add a certain amount of level to the track. So if you can see, if I play it, you can see because I've gone in at minus 16, I'm not getting any overs here. And so I'm okay there. So that's playing. Looks like it's been kind of limited or something before this track. So that's why it's not too spiky. But I know that even if I will have seen the spikes happening, and I'll pull the level down if I am getting input overload here, but I shouldn't be because I'm at minus 16 on the input. So because I'm adding level there, then now on this meter, because this meter should always be up, then I can see as I'm adding to this section here, he says, with the meter not being up. So as say, for example, I was adding something here, then I know that this is going to go over what I want it to go to. This is going to go over minus 8. So what I want to be doing is I'm then playing with the limiter, and I'm bringing that limiter down a touch all the time. So as I'm adding here, I'm playing with the gain on the end. And so what sometimes, most of the time happens is you'll add a few different plugins here, and then I'll usually have a couple of limiters in. So I might have an L2 or there's so many. I mean, other limiters have different sounds. So use those, use your ears, and you can just use this one. So a lot of the time I might have another limiter doing a couple of dB, this one doing like 3.5 dB. Then it's not putting as much pressure on it, and it can get it sounding, you know, different. This can handle massive levels, and all the guys at Metropolis use this at like +9 all the time, +10. But I prefer to have a couple of things in the way just because I like the sound of the L2. I think it sounds nice, bright and poppy. And there's loads of other things that I like to do. So so you got to just play with that, but keeping these meters up all the time so you know you're always popping around minus 8. And then that's it. You're in business, really. So let's stop sharing that. I'm back. Very laggy, or is it just me? I don't know. It's probably because I was sharing my screen too much and we were quite laggy. So can everyone see me and hear me now again? Sorry, we've now that we're back on this, please say yes. Door was a bit laggy. Yes, it was late. Well, look, you're going to get this as a replay. You can watch that section back. You can then play with that, which hopefully. So basically, the basics of it are: you're going in at -16. You know that you're putting your limiter and you're putting your EQ, compression, and limiting on. You're putting your limiter so that your record channel is hitting -8. So you're -16, -8, and then here you're adding there, and then you're always changing the limiter. Now that is the fundamental basics of this, and so that really is a 3-step process that you can use, and you can. I'll send you the presets that I've sent you that I had there on the QL. Now, if you guys are interested in getting a bit deeper into this, and then obviously I've got my course. You guys can have it because you've made such an effort to come today. I'll give it to you for 297. It's now at 997. Everyone in the other outside world gets it for 997, but I'll give it to you for 297. And what it is, it's a deep dive. So I've done basically just dump my brain into a software, and I talk about room acoustics, setting up your room, the mindset. I go really deep into EQing. I go deep into a lot of other like MS EQing. I go into Baxendale EQs. I go into a lot about dynamics, compression, different limiting styles, and so it's a real kind of full-on deep dive course into everything that I do on a day-to-day basis. And so it takes what I've shown you today that much further, so that you've got the knowledge, so that you can, and I master like loads of tracks in it as well. So, and then I'm telling you what I'm doing as I'm going, and you know all that because you've done it through the weeks of the course. It's an 8-week course. I'm probably going to change that to a 6-week course just to get people through it a bit quicker. So if you want that, that comes also as part of that, you get to join the Facebook group, which is brilliant. And that's got some really good engineers in there. When I first did the course, I thought everybody would be complete newbies, but they're not. And they're basically, telling me stuff, but it's good because we're having a lot of feedback in there. And I do a live Q&A every Thursday. So I did one earlier today, which was for an hour, where I get asked questions by all the gang in there, and I know most of them now because I'm talking to them every day. So that works well. And also as part of the course, which I haven't done before, but I'm going to do going forward, is you get to have a sort of one-on-one with me, so that as we get towards the end of the course, which is about week 7, where I'm really sort of diving deep and doing everything that I do, it's a Skype chat with me for an hour or so, just talking about all the things that have happened in the course, and me helping with rooms and anything that's happened within the course to help, kind of cement what people have learned throughout those weeks. So if you want that, I'm only going to keep that open until Sunday. So you can have that for 297 Sunday. I'll send you a link after this to that. So on my website, it's 997. Forget that. Just go in, either click the link or go and type in 3-step, and that 3-step will give the discount off. And then I know who you are, and then we'll be able to set up all the calls, and I'll put you in the groups and all that malarkey. So if you want to dive deep, go there. You can go to my site now, and the code is 3-step, but it's only open till Sunday. So I don't want to keep it going forever, because it's not fair to people on the course, and it's not fair for people that are buying it at the full price. But because we're all here and we've made an effort, then thanks. So it's Gavin, it's 3 steps. So it's the number 3 step. Yeah, not 3-step. Should have been 2-step, really, shouldn't it? But anyway, so Q&A, let's do it. What questions have you got for me? Here you go. Let me throw the code in there. Right, there's a link there. So I've just copy and pasted that link in. So you can go via that link and that will sort it out for you. So are you using a Prism Lyra? No, I've moved to a Lynx Hilo now because of the ins and outs. I really like the, I just got bored of using the Prism. And so I was chatting to someone and they said the Hilo is brilliant. I checked it out. I really liked it. I liked the sound of it. I liked the, I liked all the metering and the way it routes for all my equipment was perfect. So I've switched to a Hilo. Yeah. Did I ever use the limiter on the Prism? No, I hated it. I hated the overkill. It's terrible. I'd rather use a limiter in the box so I can get more kind of control over the limiting, where you can't really get that much control with their stuff. It's like it's always quite brick wally. How much is the loudness penalty on -8 RMS? Okay, I've done a few videos on my channel about loudness and about RMS, so I'm not going to get too involved in it, but basically I master for commercial music every day. They never ask me for anything lower than -8, so that's why I say to you today that it's -8, because that's what it is, and your music's going to get brought down. There's a whole video on it on my channel. Go to my channel, check that out, because basically it's too deep. And I would go deeper into that. Yeah, the streaming services, basically, if you're going to a streaming service, I go into this in the course as well. I go quite deep into all the different streaming services, MFITs and all that kind of stuff. But briefly, yeah, you need to set it up so that if you're going to streaming services, go to -1, drop the gain to -1. So that's that sort of covers any of their when they're doing their codecs and their conversions. Basically that's going to cover any sort of in sample peaks and things like that are happening. So the basics of it are that, but yeah, you can go deeper and you can get different sounding things. And I do have I do certain streaming masters for people as well at the same time as I'm mastering, but that's a whole other kettle of fish. Can you share some of your reference tracks? Yes. Yeah, in the course, sorry. I don't, in the first week of the course, basically, there's a mindset section and it's got all the reference tracks and it tells you all about that in there. What I listen to every day, what I'm listening to when I reference different things, tracks that I think sound great and why, and that kind of thing. Do I think it's worth having an analog limiter? No. I used to have an analog limiter. I used to have a Maselec limiter, which was brilliant. It's got its own sound. And really, a limiter is a compressor that's at ratio 10:1. So really, the way I used to use that limiter was as a compressor. So you'll just push into it, and you're just kind of shaving the peaks off, but pushing in hard. So I'd use an analog limiter as a compressor, but I wouldn't necessarily use it as a limiter, because you can't get enough level out of it. By the time you come back out of your equipment, if you're analog, and then through, you need to add another 6 dB of gain anyway. So you're going to need that extra, space. Hugo, do I like the old tannoys? Love the old tannoys. They're brilliant. Yeah, I think they're great for mastering. They're brilliant sounding speakers. I think you have to have the room. Speakers are really room dependent. I mean, that's something that I've listened to tons. I mean, if you've watched my channel, then you'll know that I've listened to loads and loads of them, and I find that they can sound really bad. Like when I was at Metropolis, the room wasn't ideal. As I said at the start, I really wanted to change it, and I really wanted to move things around. It was like square boxy. I wanted to move the desk, get rid of a load of equipment, and it was overload in there really. And so some speakers sounded terrible and some speakers sounded amazing. So I found that you need to get the speakers in your room and listen to them there, because some speakers I have in here sound great, some don't. That's why I've changed the keys from the Focals. The Focals are brilliant speakers, but I just don't think they were right in my room. I got on with them and I made them sound good, but as soon as I put these keys on, it was like boom, yeah, nice, that works. So I think you need to I don't think there's any problem with them being dual concentric. I think it's just more the fact that yeah, get them in your room, check them out. Lovely speakers. Is it worth cutting 70k on the backs? Yeah, so I go into this massively I love Baxendale EQs. I love the Dangerous backs. I always have it on 70k. I really like it. You can't really hear it. It's obviously got on the slope, but yeah, 70k, you cut it. Key 3 is good in a small room. Yeah, I'm not in a massive room. This room is 6 meters by about 4.5 meters wide. So it's not huge, but it's kind of the size that I like. I've worked in massive rooms before, and I've worked at Metropolis, which had that room that was fairly big. I've worked at Universal. It's the tiniest room ever. So I've worked in all sizes, and I always thought like I wanted a room that was 4 meters by 6 meters, and then when I found this, I was like, wow, that's amazing that happened. You know, law of attraction and all that. So 6 meters by 4.5, 5-ish meters, then is perfect for me. It's not so big that the sound's getting wafted around. The keys work really well in a small room. The keys are great because they don't have loads of bass build up. So when you're in a small room, or even a room this size, I found that the bass was sort of really not overwhelming, but it was just the room was getting really involved with the bass. And with the keys, they don't, because they've got this bass thing going on. So PMCs. Oh, John, how do I feel about PMCs? Not a big fan. I can say that on here because I've used them. I love the BB5s in the right room. In Stuart's room at Metropolis, the BB5s that he's got in there, they were built for that room because PMC basically built those speakers for Stuart's room. And then they started selling those speakers afterwards. When they first set up Metropolis in '94, I think, they wanted some speakers. PMC built the speakers. Massillette built all the equipment. So they said what they wanted. They said what they wanted to copy. And I think what they did, they wanted to copy the ATC mids, but have more bass, because the ATCs don't have a lot of bass. So that's where PMC got the idea from for doing a different style box transmission and all that. And then Massillette, they wanted a Sontec EQ, so he kind of did that, his version of that. And then they wanted a desk because the original desks they had were too noisy, so he built those. And then they wanted a limit, so it went on like that. So yeah, that's, I think the going back to the PMCs, the PMCs sounded brilliant in their rooms. They didn't sound good in my room at Metropolis. And I had the PMCs in here that didn't sound very good. I had the small PMCs in recently, and they're probably the worst, between you and I, probably the worst speaker I've heard. I didn't even want to review them because they were so bad. I can't remember what they're called, those new ones. So you tell me. But anyway, back to mastering. Am I using SonarWorks with the keys? I am currently, just to iron out a few little lumps and bumps, but it's because I haven't really had the time. With the keys, I'm going to have to rebuild my room and set it up again. So I'm going to get into that. But Fab Filter Q3 MS EQ, yes, yeah, I use it a lot. As you see, I've used it there. I use it in dynamic mode too. It was the Result 6s, yes, Zach, that I didn't like. The Avalon 747, brilliant, yes. Try and keep it to mastering questions, because we could talk about equipment and plugins forever. What's optimum dBs to listening to while mastering? I used to listen a lot louder, and that comes down to listening at the room you're in and the speakers that you have, because you're more likely to push the speakers up. The worse the room sounds, and the worse you're liable to keep going to level creep. So you need to find a way of getting the speakers or the level to stabilize at 80, so you keep it all the time. 80 is very good. You can hear what's going on, and it's loud enough to hear everything, really, I think. Obviously, if you've got a bigger room, you can go a bit louder. What are my VU meters calibrated to? So that was earlier on. I have them. I have those set at that, so they're hitting minus. They're calibrated. What are they calibrated at? Let me see. Yeah, I mean, it's standard on these. No, they don't calibrate them. They just come in as RMS. So yeah, RMS. I used to have stuff calibrated to -8, I think, when I was at Metropolis with VU meters. It depends on what your room set up as. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, didn't realise what was going on. So what's Lionel's question? Sorry, I'm going back there. How do you go about mastering several songs together, i.e. album in terms of levels and EQ? Okay, a lot of the times with that is, again, you can use the AB plugin, but a lot of the times what I do is I'll master things to, I'll get them all to the best they can possibly sound. And then when you get to the end, you can go through and just tuck them all and change the gains and the levels, and you kind of hear it all then as a piece. And then when you do that, you can work out, okay, what needs what. Basically, if you do it as you go, I find that you end up compromising a track, because you might, if you start with the first track normally at the end of the album, you go back and redo. But I find that you then start compromising other tracks when you EQ against them all the time. So I tend not to do that. And a lot of engineers do it, but I don't like it. So I tend to go back at the end and listen through, because most of the levels are the same. Because of the process I've shown you today, you are getting everything at a similar level. So the only thing that's going to change within that is the EQ. Now, when you're used to how your room sounds and you're used to your speakers, you end up then EQing the same and having your own style in how you like things to sound in your room and how that translates in the real world. So you tend to find everything is at the right level and everything sounds okay. So a lot of the times you don't have to do any tweaks, but occasionally. Do I check my work in mono? Yes, and I also reverse phase the mono as well, so I can hear if anything's distorting. So yeah, I do check mono. A lot of the times you can hear with your ears what's going on, if it's mono or not, and how mono it is, really. But yeah, I do dip in and out of the mono button now and again. Having the low end in mono, yes, yes. It comes back to my vinyl days where I learned how to cut vinyl, and you'd always have to cut vinyl with a very solid middle. So you really want the low end so that it's as tight as possible, because as soon as the groove pop out, as soon as you get any kind of phase in the low end. So if you've got the track, if it's going like this, basically the stylus is going to pop out, it's going to jump. So you get it nice and tight, and that really still pays dividends now, because you've got a really pumpy low end in the mono. Then that's really helpful. But sometimes it's good to widen the stereo in the low end as well for certain tricks. Again, in the course, I've got key 3s now, and they're absolutely worth it in smaller range. Yeah, great. But can only compare them to 3s as from the studio I worked in quite some time ago. Yeah. What was the music you used in this webinar? It was a drum and bass tune by Matt, my assistant, and he's Matt Jones. I think there was some links on yesterday's YouTube video to that. What settings on the Masalek MLA2 sound best? Again, going back to compression, which I said about earlier on, go slow on the release, slow on the attack, fast on the release, and then work back from there, basically. And I used to use 5-to-1 ratio, I think, on that, or a 10. I haven't got one now. So I used to use 5-to-1, I think. just quite heavy, but it was good. It worked. And then I would move the release, because what happens when you move the release time is you get more of the sound of the box. So you just got to hear that and just hear how fast things are coming back. But the Massilec's pretty fast anyway. But yeah, I'd use that. Got confused with the GMT +1 time zone. You are late, Vladimir, but it's fine. Don't worry. I'll send you another copy of this afterwards, so you can watch again, which you might need to do. What do I think about Wavelab as mastering software? Yeah, it's brilliant. When I've used it, though, I use Pro Tools, but when I used it, it was really complicated. I think we're going back a while now, and the learning curve was too hard, and I gave up. I couldn't be bothered. There's not much to gain from using that software, really, because I use other software for doing CD masters, DDPs, and putting all my stuff together. So I don't need to use Wavelab. And a lot of the times I'm sending tracks as solo tracks, really, so that's not required. Do I ever check tracks on headphones? Yes, I do. I have a set of headphones here. So I've got these headphones that are plugged into the links, and they're brilliant headphones, by the way, if you want some. And I use them for QCing more than anything, and just playing back through them so that I can just get a vibe of how it goes. But I don't master on headphones because it doesn't feel right. Do I have a universal sample rate bit depth on an album if each song has different? Yeah, if I can, I'll look at them and I'll see which one's got the highest bit depth. No, not bit depth. Sample rate, and I'll upsample everything to that, because basically I don't want to downsample. I'd rather upsample and downsample later. So I try and do that. I like to work at 96 if I can. Right, yeah, they are all disease. Right, let's do another. Should we do another 15 minutes of Q&A and then knock it on the head? What else? So get your questions in. My wife will be getting the hump. So if you want to take advantage of that course again and you get to speak to me for a while as well on the course, which is good, and you get the Facebook group, which is like a little mastermind in itself. It's basically this, but every week for an hour, and we chat and do all kinds of stuff, and also you do get some little bonuses of free stuff. But don't tell everyone. But there's the link again. But you can go to my site and put in 3 steps. So you can go and I'll just send you a link after, shall I? It'll be a lot easier. But sorry, I will answer some questions. Would I recommend solos for a fairly small room? Yeah, I would, but I'd get a sub. You just bought Metric AB. Good. Nice one, Gavin. You won't regret that, I don't think. Low pass 2 or high pass only? Yeah, you can yeah, there's no rules. You can do that. If it's, yeah, I tend to do that if things are a little bit tizzy, but I'll use a Vice de-esser a lot of the time for tizzy stuff these days. But yeah, you can low pass. Just reading through the questions. Is it still worth focusing on mastering electronic music due to price drops? I see lots of bigger mastering studios dying here in Germany. That's just because they're not very good then, isn't it? I mean, there's no reason why you should drop prices or you should do anything like that. The fact is that they're doing something fundamentally wrong in their business, aren't they? It's not the fact that there's no work, 'cause there's loads of work. And electronic music, yeah, I do electronic music all day, every day. So there is work out there and there's a lot of people doing it. I think the problem is that people price themselves too low. And then the problem there is that they can't then run their business. because they get desperate for work, so they'll do it for cheaper, and that's a whole other thing. But I do talk about that a lot on my channel, so you probably came from my channel, so check it out there. What's my take on multiband, Gary? Yes, love multiband compression. Do it a lot in the low end. If you become a member of my mastering course, then you can see a load in that. But I think I've done some stuff on YouTube as well, where I'm crushing the low end and showing you how I use it. Let me see. What kind of music do I like to master? I like mastering. I don't know. I kind of like all, because I don't have much taste in music anymore, because I've kind of worked on loads of different things, and I like the sound of things. I don't like. I'm not really listening to, like, okay, I like this because I like just listening to things and getting things sounding good. That's what I get off on. I don't get off on what the music is. I get off on how did it sound from there to there, and did they like it, and how did I do that, and why did I do that, and that kind of thing, as you can guess, basically. So music I liked. What would I say if I had to? Probably electronic music. I like that. I like synths. I like electro music. But I like bands. I find with bands, though, they hurt my ears a bit, because I tend to master loud, as I said, and so then it's very middly, and so that kind of hurts my head. So that kind of can play havoc with your hearing a lot of the time. Sorry, I'm just trying to flick up to the top of the comments. Am I still using Soothe? Yes, I am still using Soothe. I like Soothe a lot. I use it with like the Vice, but you know, for different styles and different ways of using it, so it's a bit different. Do I recommend parallel compression in mastering? It has its place, but I don't tend to use it a lot, because I find that things are these days so compressed anyway that I don't see it. I don't get much use out of it. I do use a bit of upward compression, which is kind of similar to parallel compression, but you're not manipulating it. You're just using like something for uplifting it. But yeah, it used to be a big thing for the American engineers in the 80s and 90s to use parallel compression to get kind of a big low end. But big low ends, we kind of can do that very easily, and people do that in their mixes now, so they don't really need to let the mastering engineer do that. So you know, it used to be a kind of secret, little trade secret how to do it, but it's no longer a secret. Everyone does it. So it's kind of done by the times I get it. How long should a mastering session take for a single track? Anything between 20 minutes and an hour. Anything over an hour, you're going round you need to zero everything and start again, because you've gone mental. So if it's a really good sounding track, you're going to play it through a few times, you're going to get it to level, and then you're not really going to have to do much. But when I say that, those tracks are usually the ones that take you an hour, the ones that actually don't need anything. And the ones that don't sound very good usually take you 20 minutes, and because you can slap everything on and it sounds so much better than it did in the first place. You can tell a good mix, because the more you work on it and the more you do to it, the worse it starts sounding, and then you keep stripping off and then keep adding, because you always feel like you want to add more. So you kind of do that, and then it kind of doesn't, you know, it's diminishing returns, but it takes you a while to understand that, really. So yeah, that's kind of that. Any special way to mono the bass, or just yeah, there's loads of ways to mono the bass, but I haven't got anything I can't show you now, really, so it's too much, really. What audio interface am I using? I'm using a Hilo Lynx. Your ears are precious. How do you take care of them? Any advice? I would get those they're about £80, I think, £120. If you go out to gigs a lot, I would get the molded ear protectors. Can't remember what they're called now, but they're brilliant. So you can hear everything, but they just get rid of the high end, so it doesn't rip your head off. I would listen quietly as you can, really, and take as many breaks as possible, because you know, I haven't, and I do have ringing in my ears occasionally if I'm in a really quiet room, and pisses me off, because I wish when I was a kid I didn't stand in front of loads of bass bins at raves and think it was great to shove my head in a bass bin. What a dick. So yeah, that was it basically. But you know, I felt the bass. Do I recommend the Teglia Cream? Yes. Isotope Imager is great for that. Yes and no. Do I tell a client when a mix sucks? Well, I wouldn't say it sucks to someone because it's their mix, but I would certainly give them advice. You need to work with the client, and you need to tell them where they're going wrong and try and help them as much as possible. I'm itching my neck and scared because it's clients and all that. But you have to just come back to them and be polite and say, look, can you drop this? Can you drop that? Or can you just send me the stems over and I'll sort it out? And then you have to sort of do your thing, really. But most of the time, I don't tell them it sucks. No. Yeah, that's it. ACS earplugs, -17 filters. Yes, that's the one. That's what you want. So sorry, the video cut out. If you don't mind answering again, how do you use? I'll send you the video. You can watch it back rather than everyone else checking that out. What else we got here that looks quite interesting to answer? Do I master acoustic orchestral music? Yeah, loads of it, because I do a lot of music for library and production music as well as film stuff. Not because I'm here, I just don't. I've always done it, and that's been my kind of bread and butter. When I've had those sort of, troughs in my workload, then the sort of production music has come to my saviour a lot of times. So thank the Lord for that. But they do a lot of orchestral, a lot of acoustic stuff. So I've had to work on that quite a bit, which is great because it's totally different to working on like Skepta or someone that's, mentally in your face, Prodigy or whatever. So it's, better than that sometimes to have a nice little break and do a whole album of that sort of thing. Do you mono bass synth that has a lot of side information? Yes and no. It depends on the track. Depends what effect that's having, and depends how high up the sound is being in stereo. So yeah, that's it. Okay, it's late in India. It's probably time to go. Okay, let's wrap this up then. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you got something out of today. I hope that you've learned how to master in 3 easy steps. Did it work? Tell me, yes, did it work? And I hope you kind of have got somewhere with that. And I hope I've answered some of your questions. I'd love to see you on my course. I'd love you in my Facebook group. This offer is only for now. It shuts on Sunday. I'll give it to you for $297. I feel like a market trader, but you can have it for $297. You get me as an extra bonus there as a Skype chat, a one-off Skype chat. No one gets that apart from you guys that are in this today. And you also, you get the Facebook group and you get some giveaway stuff that I give. That's secret. And I'll give you the link again here, and go to my website, 3-Step. And thanks for watching. You did get out of it. I hope do another way. I will do it. If we like this, I'll do another one. I'll find some other thing to talk about. Okay, great. Well, I hope I see you on my Facebook group. I'd love that. Be great. And I'll see you on the Q&A on Thursday if you are. And thanks. Until next time, I'll send you a copy of this. Also, I'll send you a copy of the presets as well that I've used. And is that everything I need to send you? I think so. Then you can watch this again. You can use presets. You can work out how that works for you. And of course, I'm always open to questions on my YouTube. So ask me in the comments on YouTube anything you've got. But obviously, if you're on the Facebook group, then I'll see you in there and answer any questions you've got daily. Okay, see you later. Thank you. Goodbye.